Hey guys, what's up? Hurricane Debbie's coming into town. We're doing inside activities this week, and one of the things I want to show you guys is how I make kombucha. Okay, so getting started. What is kombucha? Kombucha is just fermented tea. That's all it is. Isn't fermented like in the way that like prison toilet hooch is fermented and gets you drunk or anything like that, but it is super good for your gut biome, which is cool, I guess. I really like it because it's so customizable. You'll see in the process how you can really make it your own as far as flavors and stuff like that. It's a little expensive at the store, which was why I originally started learning how to make it on my own. And I started learning how to make it when I was pregnant with my son because I couldn't drink alcohol or anything like that. And when we were going to like a brewery for trivia with our friends or something, like I wanted to have, I don't know, like I wanted to be part of the fun and have like a special drink, like a little treat, you know? So I would bring a bottle of kombucha wherever we were going. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I drink it now even still because, you know, sometimes you get home and you want to, after work or something like that, and you want like a drink that's not water. So you want something special. And if you're trying to cut alcohol out of your life or your diet or whatever, this is a really good replacement. Because honestly, like there were times where I was sitting on the lake drinking a cold kombucha and I was like, you could tell me like this was like some sort of sparkling sangria and like I'd believe you, like it was so good. So anyway, you can make every single bottle a different flavor if you want. If you have a lot of extra fruit and stuff like that, this is a really good thing to use it with. So let's get into the process and I'll tell you how I make this stuff. So like I said, kombucha is fermented tea. And if you are fermenting something, you need like yeast and microbes and stuff to do the fermenting. You can totally hear Johnny in the background. He's like right next to me in a little bouncer. He's super awake today. So either he's part of the video or this video doesn't happen. So you need these. I have multiple in this jar, but these are called Scobies. Some people call them mothers. It's basically a pancake of bacteria culture that does the fermenting in your kombucha. And it maybe sounds gross. It's not gross, and it's just the reality of fermentation. This right here is called a Scoby Hotel. There's kombucha tea in here just to keep the Scoby from like dying off. But this is not the kombucha that we're gonna drink. We're just gonna pull out one of these bacteria culture cake things and put it in our kombucha. Oh, he's being upset. Okay guys, we are back. We got a baby in tow. He just wants to be on me today, so that's what we're gonna do. He doesn't ask for much, so we'll oblige him. But we're gonna talk about what you need to make kombucha, and then we'll get into like the steps. Kombucha takes 2 different fermentation cycles to come to life and be the kombucha that we all know and love. The first one is where you're actually just literally fermenting the tea. And then the second fermentation, that's when you're adding flavorings and then you're getting like the carbonation. 2 biggest differences between the first and second fermentation is one, whether the jar is sealed or not, and then the second is the length of time. So we'll get into that. But what you need to make kombucha, first and foremost, you need a Scoby, and you can get this on Facebook Marketplace. You can get it from a friend who makes kombucha. You could get it from Amazon. Like I literally got a kombucha kit from Amazon that came with a Scoby, and like I've been making Scobies ever since, and I think I have like 4 or 5 of them in here now because every time you make a batch of kombucha, you'll get a new Scoby, which is pretty cool. So you can like gift them to your friends so that they can make kombucha as well if they're weird like you know what I mean? You need a separate jar, big gallon jar, to make the kombucha in. You need about 5 bags of regular tea, or if you're using like big Lipton iced tea packs, maybe like 3 of those. I'm using oolong here just because I kind of wanted to try something new. You can use oolong, you can use Earl Grey, you can use a combination of the 2. Also, you can just use regular Lipton tea or like whatever name brand, like generic tea. I used that for a long time because I was like, I'm not gonna spend a bunch of money on like this fancy tea if I don't know what I'm doing. So I had Lipton in my pantry already. And I was like, oh, I'll just use that. And then I went through all of that and got a new box. And so I got something a little nicer. But the Lipton tea worked out perfect. You need sugar. This is about 3/4 of a cup here. You need cold water for bringing the temperature of your tea down before you put the Scoby in. And then the last things I have over here, reach around, I have a little chalk pen that I use to label my jar with like important information, like the date is probably the most important information you could put on there. I also like to name each batch, so we'll see what the name is later. And then I put the type of tea on there just because there's a spot for it. And then you need a little cloth like this, or a paper towel will do, to cover your jar during the first fermentation, because the jar is not sealed, because you want oxygen, you want air to get in there and like help the yeast do its thing. And then a little rubber band to like secure it. My water is boiling. I can hear it in the background. So I'm going to go put these 4 bags of tea in there, and I will be right back, and we'll put it in the kombucha jar. Leave me alone. So this is going to be a 2-part series on kombucha. And if you want to make your kombucha today, or start it, you know, within the next week, and then by the time the next video drops, you'll be ready to do your second fermentation right along with me, or shortly after watching the video. So depending on your conditions in your house, like whether it's hot or not, oh, you're okay. Whether it's like hot, cold, you're at altitude, it's humid, where in your house you're storing it, is your AC bumping all the time or is it not? The first fermentation can take anywhere from 7 to 14 days is what I've noticed. The sweet spot for me is like 10. At about 10 days, I know I'm going to be ready to go. So what you're looking for to determine whether or not you can move on to the second fermentation is really just like the smell. Like, does it smell like a fermented tea, or does it still smell like, think about like the particular smell that like sourdough starter has, or like, you know, like that funk, that stank, you know, but it's like a good stank. Think about that when you're smelling your tea. If it just smells like a jar of sweet tea, it's not ready. And if you're unsure about it, go the full 14 days and then pull it, and then you know you're going to be good. But for me, like, I've just done it enough where I know in my house I can get it takes me about 10 days. The snorty boy. It's time to pull that tea off. He's getting tired. Yeah. Okie dokie. And you know, I kind of like to, let me know in the comments if this is like absolutely the wrong thing to do. But I like to leave the tea bags in there for a little while. Let's get to it. What we're gonna do now is let the jar come down in temperature a little bit. I have one of the thermometer stickers on the side, but I can never really tell if it's like working or not. Like, I feel like just most of the time it doesn't do anything. You have to remember that this thing is alive. So if you have super hot tea in here and you throw a Scoby into it, you've just committed Scoby murder. It will kill the yeast if it's too hot. So what you want to do is just let this come back down at room temperature, and then you can put your Scoby in there and you know your Scoby will be fine. A little warm to the touch is okay, you know, but you don't want to be, better safe than sorry. As far as like how much to fill your jar up, I try to fill mine up to where it's not like coming up over here, because your Scoby will float. It might not at first, but it will eventually. So you don't want your Scoby to be on the narrow part of this thing, because then it's just all crunched up and it's like weird. I'm sure it would be fine, but I don't like it. So I just fill mine up to where I'm still getting like the full width of the jar. Yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm going to put this guy down for a nap while my kombucha cools off. And yeah, we'll be back in a flash. So my kombucha has cooled down. I don't know if this is recording. I always get so paranoid. This kombucha has cooled down to the point where I feel good putting a Scoby in it. I have washed my hands because I'm going to reach in here and touch the Scoby, and I don't want any mold or anything to start growing on the Scoby because I had something weird on my hands. And we'll talk about what the mold looks like. I don't have an example to show you because I don't have any moldy kombucha laying around, but it did happen to me once, and I have a step that I started doing ever since that has prevented that from ever happening again, so I'll share all that with you guys. But the first thing we have to do is move the Scoby, and we're gonna take some of this juice with us. I take like half a cup to a cup of the tea that's in the Scoby hotel, and I put it in here, but I return the favor by taking some of the tea that is in here with all that fresh sugar and all that stuff that hasn't been chowed down on yet by the yeast, and I put it back in here. So that's how we give back and forth. So you want, this stuff is super funky and is gonna give your kombucha that good stank that only like established Scobys and Scoby hotels can provide. And then this is gonna keep giving food to Stank City in here. So yeah, here we go. Take a cup of the fresh, maybe 2 cups, and I'll put it in here, and then that way I'm ready to do the switch. So come on over. All right, so now we're gonna just get, and you know, none of this is not like baking or anything. So none of this stuff is super exact. Like that's not a full, that's probably like a spicy half cup there, but it's really not a big deal, you guys. Doesn't have to be exact. The point is we just want some fresh food for our Scoby hotel because we'll take one Scoby out, but we'll still have some residents in there. So this is my fat stack of Scobys, and I'm gonna try and pull them all out here. You guys are gonna get a rare look. Now this cake that's on the bottom, this little guy, he's little and fat. That's the one that came on Amazon with my kombucha kit. So that's the OG homie right there. And now all of these bigger Scobys that you can see, they are the same size as the jars. Those are the ones that have grown with each batch that I've made. So sometimes they stick together, and that's okay. But what you are looking for is that there's no fuzzy, dry stuff. So this is all wet, this is all good stank, we like that. Everything in here should be wet and slimy. There goes my little Scoby into his little home. Your Scoby may or may not float at first. This one is, because it's a pretty thick Scoby, but if you have like a very new, like young, thin Scoby, like some of these in here that I didn't use this time, you might see those ones hang out toward the bottom, and then after a few days, they'll start to rise to the top. Like I said, it's not baking, it's not rocket science. We're just dealing with stank and funk, and so sometimes weird things happen. But as long as it's not mold, it's all good. So this is the stank juice from the Scoby Hotel going in. Ka-chow. And I'm just gonna give that a chance to get down into the tea there, just by kind of disturbing the Scoby who was in the way. Okay, ka-chow. And now we're gonna take our fresh food, and it's gonna be feasting time in the Scoby Hotel. So Scoby Hotel gets sealed. So we were talking about mold, okay? Actually, back up, I wanna look you in the eye so we can talk about mold. All right, when it comes to mold, how do you avoid it? Well, make sure your stuff's clean, especially the jar that you do your second fermentation in. That one's gonna have like carbonation, it's gonna have fruit and sugar and like kind of more stuff in it. And you're probably gonna make it in a smaller neck jar than this because you wanna get that carbonation in there. So you really have to make sure those things are clean. This is a little bit more forgiving, but I have had batches go moldy in these jars before. So what I do to prevent that is I use the cloth, the little canvas linen, I don't know, cloth, and I also use a paper towel. I don't know what it is about the paper towel cloth combo, but I have never had a batch get moldy on me since then. And I haven't ever done like different amounts of tea and different amounts of sugar and whatever. All I changed was this. So would really strongly recommend that you guys do this kind of like double stack method. So I just put that on. This paper towel got wet, so I don't trust it. Grab a freshly fresh paper towel, and I just double it up, you know what I mean? Because I can, because the opening of this isn't that big. And then, you know, you slap your rubber band on there, and you're good to go. So now all this stuff has got to go back into the fermentation station. And you might be wondering, where should I put this stuff? Some good options, if you have a shelf above your like washer and dryer, or like a high shelf in a mudroom or something, that's a great choice. If you have a kitchen like mine that doesn't have any windows in it, you can put it right on the counter. Or you can put it in the back corner of your pantry. You just want something dark, not too cold. Sorry, for some reason I just like got paranoid and thought my mic was on. So I keep my stuff in the fermentation station, which is where I keep my sourdough starter, my Scoby hotel, and then kombucha if applicable. Sometimes when we're getting close to the 10-day mark, I'll like move it to the counter so I can keep sniffing it and stuff, but I have other things on the counter right now for baking. So this is part 1 of how to make your kombucha. This is the first fermentation how-to step-by-step. Join me again in about 10 days. We're gonna post a fermentation 2 video, which is super fun because that's when you're adding flavorings. Don't buy your fruit yet, okay? Wait till you're like 3 or 4 days out from that 10 to 14 day mark. Then go get your fruit, because I've made that mistake before where I bought everything I needed for the kombucha all at once and then my fruit rotted in the fridge for 10 days while I waited for this to ferment. Good flavor combinations if you are thinking about going to the store before you watch part 2. We love a watermelon mint. We love a blueberry lemon ginger, or just a lemon ginger. Strawberry mint, banging. I don't know, anything with kiwi would probably be really good. Like a strawberry kiwi would probably be really good, even though I haven't made one of those. Strawberry mint is probably, strawberry mint and then blueberry lemon ginger are my 2 absolute favorites. So I'll be doing something like that, which is pretty exciting. And if you are returning, I appreciate your support. And if you're new, hit the subscribe button, please, okay? Why wouldn't you want to be on that team? You know, we're a winning team over here. Homesteading, making our own food, gardening, resisting the HOA every step of the way. So, you know, like, subscribe, and resist. I'll see you next time.